psychology is different from other behavioral fields in that it attempts to give the public two guarantees. One, that the conclusions about behavior that it produces come from scientific evidence, and the second is that practical applications of psychology have been derived from and tested by scientific methods. So we all know these steps to the scientific method, but the difference is that in psychology it's just a little bit more difficult to test some of these things. But nonetheless, that is what you are expected to do, just like with any other science. When we talk about identifying the problem, when we state the problem, it's important to ask a question that can be answered. Some questions, as you know, just flat can't be answered, and if so, then they're not a good candidate for scientific thinking. For example, let's say we're interested in increasing the number of hours students study for exams. So we ask the questions of three types of rewards. Which is the best reward for increasing the number of hours that students study for an exam? The point is, we identify what we're interested in learning about, and this topic is usually well informed, and by that we mean that it comes from theory. But we essentially form these problems as questions, and these questions lead to our research. And so we're looking for yes/no questions, by the way. Very simplistic questions that doesn't leave a lot of gray area so that you can make some kind of definite, come up with definite answers. Hypothesis, we know that the key point with a hypothesis is a relationship. What kind of relationship do we expect to occur? Because hypotheses typically come from theories, we should be able to predict some kind of a relationship. So in our example, we might hypothesize that of the three rewards, money is going to make them go to class and study more than my personal favorite, getting to take a break and go swimming, and that would get them to study more than just extra credit. And so that's the rating on how much it's going to, I mean, which one would increase their study hours more. So here we've defined a relationship that we expect to see when we run our experiment. And now that we have our hypothesis, we need to test that relationship that we think exists between our variables, and we do this by designing a study. And psychological research typically takes the form of an experiment, although, as you guys know from Introduction to Psychology, there are other techniques that are also used. If you don't remember them, there are things like case studies, surveys, observational methods, naturalistic observation, archival data, and so forth. But we're looking at here the experiment. So we define the experiment, and we know that experiments are very important because they allow the researcher to control or manipulate specific aspects of the study, and they're also the only kind of research that can prove causation or establish cause and effect. In order to interpret the data, it must be organized in a meaningful manner, and sometimes that's very difficult. And this will be done using statistical methods, which we're going to talk more about in later chapters. By the way, when we talk about data, you guys do know that that is plural and that the word datum is singular. And then once we've done all of those things, the next step is a scientific method, is to report the results. And your book mentioned that the APA database summarizes about articles from over 2,000 different journals, and most of these are peer-reviewed. So obviously we want to share our results with the rest of the psychological community, and one of the ways that we do that is through these peer-reviewed articles so that someone else has an opportunity to look at it and decide that that is in fact the way, there is some validity to my research or your research. All right, I'm going to stop right here and come back in just a minute.